Happy day, happy day, happy day, happy day. We are back with another one. We're taking it prehistoric. I guess you can't call it prehistoric, but
you could call it Jurassic.
It's very Jurassic, if you will. Get Jurassic Park 3. What up? This is back to the Classic Cinematic Movie Podcast that takes you back to the iconic films of 20 years ago on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora. I always forget how many platforms that we're on at the moment. So Dave can do the rest. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Hey, good, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm Jay Alonso. With me, of course, is
Danger Neff, David Danger Neff. And as you can tell, we're kind of just going through the motions here, guys. 3 episodes left, so enjoy what we have going on here. How you doing? Doing all right?
I'm good. I'm finding a weird head cold, which I will hope it's all it is. But I'm finding a weird head cold right now. But besides that, it's been a pretty solid weekend. Happy birthday to you, my guy.
Thank you.
Now you didn't see Space Jam.
I did not.
Is that by choice, or you'll get around to it?
We'll see. I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm in this weird spot with movies right now that it's like, even after I finish watching this movie today, I'm like, okay, I'm good with watching movies for a little bit now, and this was
so basically the same position that I'm in. It's like I'll watch it and I'm gonna move to like a good week. Like, yeah, I'm good.
Right. But what are your thoughts on the Space Jam?
I go into Space Jam with very low, like mini low expectations. And I gotta say, proudly say, I liked it. I liked it a lot. There are some elements in there, some jokes in there that's like, all right, this is corny. But if you remind yourself that this is a Looney Tunes movie, this is a children's movie. This is a movie where corny, geeky, that's expected. Like meh acting chops from LeBron James, all that is like expected. But what I do like about it, what I do appreciate about it, is that it is, I guess we could say, Space Jam: A New Legacy makes more sense than the original Space Jam movie, as far as plot-wise, right? I feel like it is 100% a big old commercial for HBO Max, and I also feel like it's a huge Warner Brothers like look all cool shit we got kind of movie. And there are definitely some pros and cons to this because while there are some gags in this movie that do work, and they work well, there's other gags in this movie that is like, you don't need this. And then you kind of look at them a bit on a contradictory level, because remember when all that Pepe Le Pew controversy was going around?
Right.
But then you look through the crowd in the movie. Well, there's the Clockwork Orange guys. There's It, who eats children, by the way. You have It right there. And you have all these different things that clearly relate to things like horrible things happening to children, and you have them in a children's movie. Not to mention, spoiler alert, Rick and Morty's in this movie. So it's a huge, look at all this cool shit I got kind of a movie from Warner Brothers. That being aside, LeBron is solid. He does the best he can do. He has a lot more charm than Jordan does. I can say that. But yeah, I think you'll have a legit good time with it.
Is there a Bill Murray character in this?
No. Okay. No, there isn't. But there's a gag that they thought would work and it just didn't. Probably because how I feel about this particular actor, I was like, that didn't really. Even though technically the joke kind of writes itself, but nah, the execution wasn't as strong as they had hoped.
What about the big guy that plays the lawyer in the original one? That
Wayne Knight, is he? Wait, didn't he die?
I think Wayne Knight's still alive. I'm pretty sure Wayne Knight's still alive.
Yeah, I'm like, did he die?
Wayne Knight's still alive.
Well, no, there is no Wayne Knight in there. But there's the same opening montage like it was for Michael in the first movie. And they cover everything from LeBron playing ball in Ohio to every team change he's done up until present day. And I just feel like the execution of the movie and the plot of the movie makes more sense this time around, to where like it gives them a reason to really put all this IP in one movie.
Okay.
But it's just the story makes me. And Don Cheadle as the villain, Al G Rhythm. But he's pretty dope though. The movie's dope. Out of 10, I give it a solid 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will definitely have to check it out. Maybe sometime this week. We'll see.
So
we will definitely see.
I look forward to you like calling me like, yo, Jay, listen, you're right. Or Jay, you listen, you're fucking smoking. I'm looking forward to either or. All right, so today's movie. Unfortunately, just like last week, I've been busy as well. So has Dave. I didn't fully finish today's movie, however, because I've been kind of under the weather. But it's gonna be a Dave solo run. But I'm just here to back him up, and we'll be back doing this thing again next week. So, without further ado, we'll take it back to 2001. Which, by the way, how do you feel like as a whole about the movies in 2001?
They're weak. I mean, overall, it's a pretty weak run of movies. Especially, you gotta keep in mind this is summer blockbusters, so these are the movies that are supposed to be pulling in oodles of money, right?
Right.
And I think this one was the lowest one of all of them. Although I gotta say, I don't think it's even necessarily that bad. There were a lot of problems going into this movie, but the product that they kind of put out forth myself, like it's not something that I'll throw on often, but it's kind of okay to scope out once in a blue moon. That's kind of how I feel overall about it. But yeah, like the movies of 2001, they need a lot of work. There was some 2000s vibe to them, with very, very few hits. Legally Blonde being one of them. I actually did enjoy watching that. It's kind of a cool one to check out. But this one is, you can almost pass. But we'll talk about that here in a second.
I'll say this. I'll say that if you think about all the the donations of movies that 2001 gave us, don't forget 2001 was the year where we got a movie called Bones with Snoop. We also got The Wash with Snoop and Dre. And we got certain fare that was just like, this was better off kind of being left as a script and not produced to be a movie. But I felt like it was a weird transition year. I think we were still trying to like figure out where we were going as Hollywood makes its way to doing what it wants to do.
I think, and that's kind of the problem with this movie, right? Because there's still a decent amount of practical effects that's done in this movie, with animatronics and whatnot. It's just I can't really say it was good practical effects. Like I think of the T-Rex in the first Jurassic Park, and she was kind of a whole vibe. Like everything about her felt incredibly scary. This one feels kind of
concerning.
Yeah, like there's a reason they haven't brought it back,
right.
And why it kind of leads that way. But we'll get into that. Original release day of this was on my birthday, July 18th, 2001. This movie holds a very, very special place in my heart because if you guys don't know about my past, 20 years ago this week, I had moved to the city of Las Vegas. This was literally on July 14th. I moved to Vegas all the way from Italy. For those who have no idea my history. So this was literally, and we stayed at the Texas station for 3 weeks. No, we stayed at the Texas station for 3 weeks. This was literally the first movie I saw. This was literally the first I saw when I arrived to the United States. And you guys got to keep in mind of a couple of things. I know that seems a little weird that this is the one, but up to that point, I don't even think I don't think I caught Final Fantasy Spirits Within. At least, you know what? If I did catch it, it would have been in Atlanta. But kind of the reality is that when I moved out here, and this was like that first movie, it kind of sparked a little bit of that movie joy out here, especially because I'd never seen a movie theater inside of a casino because I've never seen a casino before. I had no idea what to like expect. And here I am.
And that must have blew your mind.
Here I am calling it home for 21 days. You know, trying to fully understand what was going on there. And I did have my best friend out here, but you know, it's not like Texas Station was anywhere close to where he lived. So, you know, in a way, the Texas Station, which I don't think is ever going to open back up, but it kind of holds a kind of a small, little significant, you know, piece of history for myself. To give you guys an idea of what it took to get to Las Vegas, we had actually driven from Atlanta all the way to Vegas in 5 days. And it was a Dodge Stratus of car 4 with...
Was it green?
No, it was beige. It was beige with our suitcases piled high, literally creating a wall. I couldn't see my sister on the other side of it. So it almost felt like it was just me in the car kind of there reading James Patterson books. And we stopped in Memphis. We went to Graceland. Then I had the best steak of my life in Oklahoma City at a little place called Kona Grill, which was right by the airport before it closed down.
Right.
We went through the greatest gas station in the United States in Amarillo, Texas. And when we passed there, we made it to Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is wonderful little city. Got to see the Grand Canyon when we stayed in Flagstaff, and then obviously Flagstaff's only 4 hours away from Vegas. And at that point, I was so ready to be home. When we arrived in Vegas, coming down from the 93, we had actually turned the wrong way. We went I-15 south, and we did our first tour of the Las Vegas Strip when we needed to go I-15 north to where we needed to go. So eventually we got turned around and figured out where to go. But yeah, like it was kind of a whole vibe. So I really wanted to do this movie just to kind of share that story with you guys. Understanding that, yeah, we are going on hiatus, you know, and whatever the future of the show winds up from there, we'll see. But just kind of give you guys a little bit more of a connection to what I had going on there. But yeah, let's get into Jurassic Park 3. I think this holds like a 49% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and a 36% from audiences. Jay?
Yeah.
Movie. Do you think that's about right?
That's about as fair could be, if you ask me. I would say and throughout life, I would say I've seen this movie at best twice. When it first came out, and then the attempt to watch it yesterday and today.
And this is the only time I ever watched this movie ever again. And I own this movie. I don't know why I own it.
And really, you know, believe it or not, I'm a huge fan of The Lost World, the second movie. I'm a huge fan of the movie. I think it's and that movie catches shit too a lot, but I really do enjoy that movie. It was something about the T-Rexes running down LA streets, you know, running alongside like the cab buses and whatnot. I'm like, yo, I used to ride those buses. It's kind of cool. Highly unlikely, but kind of cool. So, yeah, I really do enjoy the second movie. The third movie, you kind of left to be with the feels of why are you still doing this?
Right.
Yeah.
And all right, to kind of give you guys a little bit of a backstory of how this movie was created, Steven Spielberg knew that he was not going to return for a third movie. So the original point of having the T-Rex on mainland in San Diego, having all that was actually supposed to be in the third movie towards the end. But when he realized that he wasn't going to come back, he decided to throw it into the second movie. And I gotta say, that's probably the most memorable scene of the second movie, outside of the rescue from the bus caravan thing. That was kind of cool. I'll admit that.
Right.
But for me, The Lost World doesn't do a whole lot for me anymore, should I say? And if I had to like rank worst to best, I'd probably put it like Fallen Kingdom is the absolute worst. God, that movie had potential running out its ass, and it just got stupider as the movie went.
Oh, you Fallen Kingdom, Jurassic
Yeah,
World.
Fallen Kingdom. So five. So
Mm.
five. I'd probably put Lost World at 4, or yeah, depending on the day, I'd probably flip flop with this one. So then 3 is either Lost World or JP3. 2 would definitely be the fourth one, um, Jurassic World, and then obviously number 1 is a masterpiece. Number 1 will always be a masterpiece. Number 1 has aged so well that you almost hate how the rest of the series went because of it. Like,
And what was quite, I agree, because Jurassic Park 1 is still like such a joy to watch. But then Jurassic World, the first one, I really enjoy as well. So I would say out of the 5, I would go Park, then World, and then Lost World, and da da da. But it seemed like after that first movie, in both series, after that first movie, it just becomes this. I don't want to call it a joke, but it's almost like they lose the focus.
they lose momentum so much.
Yeah.
And it's like guys, like, you don't have to lose this much momentum, which is one of the reasons why I kind of like 3, because it's like, well, we had no momentum to build off of, so we're just going to kind of come out with this movie and kind of let you be the judge of it. And let me be fair, this movie technically is an hour and 24 minutes. Can't really say it really drags too much, but if you find it boring, you find it boring. You know, there's not
Right.
much
Right.
not much I can really say about that. And so, all right, this movie kind of starts off in production hell. I'm just going to call it like that. Essentially, there was a first draft of this where a bunch of teenagers were marooned on Isla Sonar, not Isla Nebular. This is a very, very, very key story point here. Sonar was where the second movie takes place. Nebular was where the first movie takes place. And that was the original idea of this, that these teenagers being marooned on there. But then Joe Johnson, famous for Jumanji fame, was like, this feels too much like a Bad Friends episode, so let's not do that. Then there was a second one with this idea of a pterodon escaping to Costa. You got me? You see me?
Yeah.
There was a second draft where pterodons escaped to Costa Rica mainland and was starting to kill people, with the idea of bringing back Alan Grant to see how is it that migratory patterns, has any other dinosaur basically escaped the island from there, because everybody is obviously freaking out with it possibly being a San Diego situation. That obviously didn't pan out, and then it just like went to hell. There were several rewrites. There was like an interview with William H. Macy that was literally like, yeah, no, even the final script keeps getting like redone. They had actually finished shooting, and then they were like, no, we need to shoot some additional scenes just to try to make this movie make a little bit of sense. So to say that there were problems with this movie, there absolutely is. But I think what they kind of came out with it isn't the worst thing. So basically, here's how it starts off. 12-year-old Eric Kirby is with his adult family friend. That is how I'm going to read that. That he is an adult family friend by the name of Ben Hildebrand, as they go parasailing over the ocean near Isla Sorna. And I know that sounds incredibly dumb. It is incredibly dumb. You back with me?
Yeah. I don't know what's going on.
No worries. So 12-year-old Eric Kirby is with his adult family friend, Ben Hildebrand, because it's not exactly clear what his relationship is.
I had this weird vibe about this whole plot device. I was like, wait a minute. That's not his father.
No.
Not a stepfather.
Stepdad, right?
That is a family friend.
That is an adult family friend.
Why are you parasailing with this adult man that's nobody to you?
This adult family friend. I'm going to keep using that line because of how ridiculous it sounds. Like,
it's an adult family friend.
First of all, they're parasailing near Isla Sorna, right? Everybody knew that dinosaurs had escaped, and it had escaped in the last movie. So what the fuck is going on with this?
Right.
Anyways, as they're kind of going, you kind of get like this scene where this boat crew goes into the middle of fog, which I'm going to tell you right now, never happens with a boat crew. If a boat crew sees fog, they don't go near it, especially if they're near an island, because they can't see what's in front of them. So they could crash into something, which is what ends up happening here. But they're killed by an unknown attacker, which is kind of weak. And then it prompts Ben to detach his line before the boat crashes. Eric and him drift towards the island. 8 weeks later, bringing back Sam Neill into Dr. Alan Grant, who is kind of bored in this movie. I'll even admit that.
Kind of bored. Sam Neill is bored in this movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I'm curious as to what made him say yes.
I'm curious also. I don't know why. He's more cynical and sarcastic in this movie.
Right.
He actually literally said like his performance could have been better, in the first film. That's why he came back. And it's like, but you didn't give a great performance. It's like, so why are you back? So anyways, they kind of make this new discovery about the intelligence of velociraptors. And basically, I'm not going to get into the science of it, but there's a chamber inside the way that a velociraptor communicates from the way that it kind of speaks out. And it seems like they're able to communicate as like pack hunters to the point where they are smarter than dolphins and smarter than whales. And he even gives like a speech to like a university, and all they want to talk about is his time on Jurassic Park, which is kind of fair. That's what he's known for. It's like if you were to hear, it's like that scene in Hancock where everybody was expecting to talk about Hancock, and instead they're talking about some shitty logo, right? And nobody cares.
With the heart on the moon.
Exactly.
Right.
And once they kind of discuss, once he kind of finds this discovery, he reaches out to his longtime colleague, Ellie, reprised once again by Laura Dern. And they kind of, it was always kind of weird because they really seemed like kind of a pseudo couple. And so seeing her with like this family, with this like little boy and whatnot, and they didn't hook up, never sat right with me. I don't know why. So with this and the experience of Jurassic Park, Grant basically believes that they were sophisticated. If they had not gone extinct, they would be kind of this awesome guy. And then they decide to bring in an Italian guy who's super Italian, but his name is Billy Brennan, played by Alessandro Nivola. And Alessandro is way too good looking to be a paleontologist. I'm like, dude, what are you doing here? You should be like on a surfboard somewhere off the coast of New Zealand, like kind of doing whatever.
But to his credit, Alessandro's film choices have been quite interesting because his face, I'm used to seeing him as Pollux Troy in Face Off. I'm looking forward to seeing him in the Many Saints of Newark as like the uncle that inspired Tony Soprano to be Tony Soprano. So to see him fighting dinosaurs is nuts.
Like it kind of doesn't make sense. Some of the stuff that he's been in, because he's not a bad actor. In fact, he actually gives a pretty good effort in this. But it's like nobody ever gave him like a shot whatsoever. He was in like American Hustle, didn't get recognition whatsoever in that movie. And all right, so the cool thing is that Billy Brennan uses a 3D printer. You want to talk about early technology like coming in? They make a 3D printer copy of this larynx. And I got to say, this was kind of a cool, oh, you can get those now, like everywhere.
It's way cheaper than you thought.
And they basically replicate the sound of the Velociraptor larynx. Is it a really big part of the story? No. But if there is one thing this movie kind of does well, is they kind of show they have no problem showing you why a small item is included in a future thing. It's kind of like if I show a gun and I put it up in the closet, I have to then show the gun later on, me retrieving it from the closet. It's very simplistic filmmaking, but it's still filmmaking. Anyways, they're approached by Paul and Amanda Kirby, played by William H. Macy and Tia Leone, in a kind of a weird chemistry that they have. They seem like a wealthy couple, but come on, they always seem like a wealthy couple. They offer funding for advanced research if they give them an aerial tour of Isla Sorna. Grant reluctantly agrees, and they decide to fly there. And this is kind of that part of the movie where this is the cut that out of the movie, because Grant decides to say, okay, wake me up when we get there, falls asleep. He wakes up, nobody is flying the plane, and a velociraptor is looking at him going, Ellen, and then it's easily dude, there was no point to this scene whatsoever. It doesn't, you're having nightmares about velociraptors calling you Alan. It's a very quick 10-second scene, and immediately you're afterwards that wasn't needed. That wasn't needed at all. It didn't add anything to the story.
One of the things about the movie that has always bothered me was that
it's easily to cut that out. It adds literally nothing to the story. All right, so as he kind of flies there, Paul, Amanda, Billy, and a whole host of Kirby's mercenaries, Udesky, played by oh my lord, what's his name?
He's from Mo Money, but John Deal.
No. Udesky's Michael Jeter. He's the guy.
Yeah, you're right. My bad. Sorry.
So Udesky, Nash, who is the guy from Mo Money, John Deal, right? Or I'm sorry, Bruce A. Young is him. John Deal plays Cooper, which he's kind of, they kind of make a line oh, how do you know the Kirbys? He clearly looks like a henchman. And he's all oh, from church. I'm okay, that's kind of weak, but all right, whatever.
But you know what? I'll buy it. Cool.
So during the flight, Grant's over here, pointing out, these guys fly super low, almost way too low for my own comfort. And Grant's over here pointing out, there's a whole herd of Triceratops over here. There's some Brachiosaur, way over there. But he's noticing that nobody's, paying attention. They're kind of they're kind of okay, when did we land? And immediately Grant's what do you mean land? We're not going to land. And of course he's knocked out. And this movie goes fast after this. Actually, surprisingly fast, because we're about 20 minutes into this movie, and it kind of kicks up a notch in terms of the action for a good little while. When Grant awakens, of course they've landed, and in the stupidest fashion in this movie. And there's a lot of dumb choices in this movie, but considering who the actors are supposed to be, they don't understand the danger they're about to be in. And at least they learn at the end of the movie the danger they're about to be in, which is why they stopped doing this crap, kind of. But they're calling out on a boom mic, Eric. Of course, it's going to attract the biggest predator there, and just so happens the biggest predator out there was a Spinosaurus. As everybody's kind of setting up a perimeter at that point, a Spinosaurus approaches the group, and first thing that happens is Cooper, who thought he could take out this thing with an elephant gun or whatever he had going on, is immediately scooped up from the highway, and it happens really, really, really fast. So as they're getting ready to take off, the Spinosaurus grabs Cooper and they hit the fin of him, damaging the landing gear, and then crash into a tree.
Right.
No, the Spinosaurus finds them in the tree, and in this kind of process, it's a very quick scene, but in this process, you see Nash literally take a satellite phone that was given to him so he can call for mayday or emergency or help and puts it into his thing.
Mm-hmm.
When the Spinosaurus grabs him and eats him, it's a plot point for later on. And in fact, it's kind of an effective plot point. Anyway, so
that was, I mean, as far as the effects on that scene, I remember it being basically just the jaw of the Spinosaurus kind of just grabbing them and like chewing them down and bringing them out. But in that same scene, as they're running, and like, I think we're safe, or I've got the line. And then all of a sudden it goes to peekaboo. I hated that scene with a passion.
They like, here's what kind of cracks me up about it. They escape out of the plane. They get out. And they're like, okay, I think we lost him, right? Turn around, and there's a body of a dead dinosaur in front of them, right? They're like, it's okay, it's dead. And this is kind of the comedy that really could have been punched up just a hair, because it is a little bit funny. A Tyrannosaurus.
I'm gonna go put my notes. Keep going.
Yeah, a Tyrannosaurus pokes out his head, right? And the T-Rex is kind of looking at him, and Grant's like, nobody move. And of course, the T-Rex like acknowledges their presence there, and everybody takes off. The T-Rex then eventually encounters the Spinosaurus, and this is probably the biggest part of the movie that I have a problem with. I don't mind the idea of the Spinosaurus winning the fight, because they clearly want to go in a different direction instead of a T-Rex, which is fine. They went T-Rex last 2 movies. My problem is that not only is this thing like dominating the T-Rex, but finds a way to snap the T-Rex neck. And I try to think about the animal kingdom a lot, which I know sounds weird. Try to think about the animal kingdom. I try to think about, where exactly were they trying to go with this, and I got nothing for you. I don't know why these dinosaurs found a way to start breaking necks, but it kind of becomes a more frequent thing than I'm comfortable with saying, and because of that, like it does hurt this movie a lot. So once the group escapes, Grant learns that the Kirbys are pretty middle class, right? They own a paint and tile store. They're divorced. They were looking for their son Eric, and Amanda's boyfriend, which is now what the Wikipedia is saying. Amanda's adult family friend Ben went missing on the island. Now, the government agencies declined to help the Kirbys, so they brought Grant along as an expert because of his past experience at Jurassic Park.
Right.
Again, Jurassic Park was on Isla Nebular, not Isla Sorna. They would have been better off bringing in Ian. So, to their dismay, of course, they begin their kind of search, and immediately they find Ben's paracel with his corpse still attached to it. Now, this is kind of where I have a problem with it, because it's not entirely clear how exactly Ben died, because it just looks like he died and then decomposed over the last 8 weeks. It didn't look like it wasn't as effective as, say, the Samuel Jackson arm out of nowhere, which is really effective because it looked like a dinosaur ate him. This is just like, okay, either something attacked him or he just died of natural starvation, because he couldn't find a way to cut himself down.
I always thought that it was he died of kind of like starvation, because like he's a bag of bones, but he's still in proper place. So it's like I always thought that he kind of just died. He kind of just died just dangling in the air.
Right, which is possible. I don't have a problem with that idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a problem with that idea because I really wanted to know how he actually died. Like, that's kind of one of the things with this movie, because it's PG-13. That's like, oh, we want to show people dying, but we can't show a body being ripped in half like in Lost World. Instead, we have to show animals snapping people's necks. And it's like, when did a velociraptor learn how to do that? did Steven Seagal like come on the island, start teaching them a whole bunch of shit? Just be like, oh, here's what you do. You go beyond them and you just snap their neck like that, bro. And then that was that. Like this is one of those that I really felt like they should have pushed for the R rating because it makes no sense for this to be a PG movie.
I also felt like the what's the dinosaur's name?
Spinosaurus?
Huh? Spinosaurus?
Yeah.
Its arms are long, right?
Sure.
So when he's like trying to like smash the plane, it's a weird vibe because it's almost like he knows exactly what to do. It's like,
yeah.
I have longer arms than the T-Rex. I can do this. It's one of those weird things. Like this is clearly an animal that probably didn't exist, or created for this movie, huh?
Spinosaurus existed. There's fossils.
Oh. Okay.
In fact, I'll give them credit. They really tried to get the animals right.
Right.
Outside of the fact that now that we have more research, they probably all were covered with feathers. All of them were probably covered with feathers. But that's just one of the things. It's not that bad. So, anyways, government agencies decide to help. They bring in Grant. He doesn't know shit. As they begin their search, they find the parasail with the corpse attached. They take the parasail, and then they encounter Raptor's nest. And then they stumbled upon an abandoned engine compound. Now, here's the thing. Grant freaks out seeing the Raptor's nest and like kind of leaves, and then he turns around and he's all like, where's Billy? And Billy is clearly fixing a bag. And he's all like, oh, I just took some extra photos. And it's kind of weird, weak predictor, but you know that he did something. You know that he probably pulled a Ned, right? And of course, they go into this engine compound, and I gotta admit, this scene was kind of cool when I watched it today because I'm like they could have gone a little bit deeper in the scene and it would have been better. Like you're kind of seeing the stages of like an embryo being grown of like a raptor embryo. Ian kind of has a line where he says, "This is where you guys grew dinosaurs." He's like, "No, this is where they came to play God." And Tia Leone, who is mostly screaming throughout this movie, kind of sees and looks over and sees like a velociraptor's full head like inside the tank, and of course it reaches over and tries to snap at her, and begins this kind of chase to do so, where they realize how smart a velociraptor is because it recognizes that it can just crawl over the top of something, where they were able to kind of get it out. Then the velociraptor begins cawing at the top of its lungs, to basically call over his guys and to fuck shit up. This is where we get the end of Michael Jeter's character Udesky, because Udesky, as he goes running off, running off after they run through this like herd and whatnot, they attack Udesky and basically stab him and pin him down. And everybody's
Jeter always makes a good victim.
He does. And they go and they're like, oh, he's still alive. And Tia Leone tries to kind of climb her way down. And they're like, no, wait. And of course, the Raptors spring a trap, nearly get her in the process. When they realized they weren't going to fall for that trap, they snap Jeter's neck. Again, it's a little bit irritating. That's not something I really want to see, but whatever, right? Especially because they literally showed a stabbing. Like, why couldn't they just complete that?
Right.
I don't know. It's something I always kind of had a problem with. So, elsewhere, Grant watches the Raptors communicate and suspects that they're in the search for something. They ambush him, and right when they're getting ready to kill him, he is subsequently rescued by some gas grenades who are held by none other than Eric, who has survived for the last 8 weeks in an overturned supply truck. Not the weirdest thing to kind of think of, but whatever. The next day, Grant and Eric are essentially reunited with the Kirbys when they hear the ringing of the dad's satellite phone. But neither of them have it. and they turn around, and super effectively, you're seeing the fucking Spinosaurus turned around, looking like on sight. He's ready to attack him.
Right.
It was a scene from a trailer, but it's still pretty effective today. Like afterwards, you're like, you know what? That's still pretty solid. And they try to escape from it. They eventually do escape. They eventually do escape from him through an abandoned observatory. And as they climb down, Grant discovers that Billy, because Billy had lost his bag during the escape with the raptors, has taken 2 raptor eggs to use for funding, thinking that he could sell them for a fortune and then they'd be okay, right? Which is kind of true. They later proved that in Fallen Kingdom. And Grant decides to kind of go a little harsh. He says, "You're no better than the guys who created this place," right? And that's like the last words he says to Billy, which is kind of fucked up. It's like, come on, man, like you're even literally looking for funding. That's why the fuck you're way the fuck out here in the first place. You knew there was always going to be some risk of this. So, anyways, as they decide to do so, they find out that where they are located is not an observatory, but it's a goddamn bird cage. And we finally get a true introduction to a pterodon as it comes walking across a bridge and eventually grabbing Eric in the process and flying off. And it's kind of effective. You know, this felt like this was actually kind of a terrifying scene because they had no natural way of getting this off. The pterodon drops off close to where its babies are, where the babies are basically acting like the compies from Lost World. Anyways, a bunch of stuff kind of happens. Billy, who had taken the paracel away from the body of Ben, does jump off, paracels his way to grabbing Eric, then dropping Eric into some nearby water before he is attacked and presumably dead from the pterodons, right? Mm. I gotta say, this scene's kind of effective because for the first time you're seeing a dinosaur that's that you know has that flight capability, and this was something that they really wanted to put in this movie. They were like, we don't understand why a pterodactyl has not shown up yet, when pterodactyl was literally like one of the most favorite Power Ranger, Power Ranger Zords or whatnot. You know, one of the most famous dinosaurs, and everybody loves pterodactyl. So it was kind of it was in my opinion probably one of the better scenes of this movie in itself. Anyways, the rest of the group escapes. They do leave an unlocked door, and they find a boat and they make their way down the river because they spotted a boat from high up above, and the whole point was to get through this observatory to get to the boat down below. That night, they hear that same goddamn satellite phone from the shit of the Spinosaurus. And in a very
it just sounds nuts when you think about it, but go ahead.
It does sound dumb, but then you remember that in the first Jurassic Park, that was a scene where they literally digging their hands through
a bunch of shit,
shit, you know. So as they're looking for the Spinosaurus shit, they find the satellite phone and another dinosaur, which I want to say Carcharodon or something like that. I can't really think of what the name actually is. Straight up comes up to them. This is clearly a carnivore. Looks at the shit, smells it, looks at them, and is just like, I ain't fucking with you guys. And literally turns around and leaves.
Okay, so I remember that scene. It was almost like he looked at him like, yeah, "You motherfucker stink," and just took off. Whatever.
it's pretty effective, right? And then afterwards, like there was another scene where they're kind of being they're being a little goofy basically, but eventually in the next morning, actually I'm sorry, the Spinosaurus basically attacks the boat that they're in, and in the process, Grant is able to make one call. Oh, this is the scene that's really effective. Grant makes a call, and the son of Ellie, who knows him as the Dinosaur Man, picks up the phone. And he's like, I need you to get mommy so I can speak to you. Grant's like basically drowning. This little boy like realizes he's not supposed to go outside, like turns around, phone in hand, and sees Barney on TV and starts dancing and jumping around to Barney. And I'm like, no, that's pretty effective. He's a 3-year-old boy answering a phone. And
And once Barney's on, it's a wrap.
that it's a wrap.
Right.
Ellie winds up giving Grant a call back where he literally says, and I don't understand how Ellie could have figured out another idea of this. He was all like, need help, site B, need help. Like, how was that? Like, that's all he said. But she was able to like have a whole plan from that. And anyways, they find a way to basically escape. William H. Macy climbed his way up a crane, and in the process, Grant, taking a flare gun along with the damaged boat's gasoline, ignites a field, damaging the Spinosaurus and causing it to flee. The next morning, they make their way to the coast, but they're surrounded by the raptors because of the raptor eggs. And in what has to be one of the weirdest scenes in this movie, they pseudo communicate with the raptors to surrender the eggs, while Grant uses that same raptor larynx.
The little thingy thing that
yeah. To confuse the pack with the eggs, and they decide to run off with the eggs. They get to the coast where the Marine Corps and Navy have arrived, where a guy with a bullhorn is calling out like, Dr. Grant, and like William H. Macy and Taylor are like, that's a really bad idea. And they discover that Billy, while he is seriously injured, has also found a way to be rescued. And they leave the island. They see the newly escaped pterodons fly by. Now, and that's pretty much Jurassic Park 3. Now, I'm going to say a couple things real quick. The ending is kind of weak. I'm not going to lie about that. The other thing this movie really, really was missing was an actual bad guy. There's no bad guy in this movie.
the Spinosaurus, bro.
He's not even the bad guy. Like, he's just there to eat stuff. Like that's man versus nature right there.
Right.
It's not man versus man. And in every movie, they've always had a bad guy. It hurts this movie a little bit, but I still don't think it's the worst thing. I'll put it this way: it leaves no major impact nor no major hurt for me to watch it. I'll never watch Fallen Kingdom again. I'll watch this more often than I'll watch Fallen Kingdom. Fallen Kingdom pissed me off.
I don't even really remember Fallen Kingdom.
Fallen Kingdom literally was like, okay, we escaped this island that's getting blown up by a volcano. So, nature taking its course, right? So we can save all these dinosaurs. We barely save some dinosaurs just for them to be auctioned off.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns into a horror movie with this raptor hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow Blue the raptor still saves the day. Like, and just like, that's a super raptor at this point. Like, that guy deserves his own spinoff movie. Put him with the Fast 9 guys. Let's see what he does.
Oh, trust me, he will be with the Fast 9 guys. You better believe
that. That's pretty much it.
All right, so are we ready for takeaways?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Takeaways for Jurassic Park 3, according to Danger Neff. Who's gonna get that guy award?
I'm gonna give it to Billy. Grant is too much. Grant is too bored in this movie. Sam Neill's too bored in this movie. So I'm going to give it to Billy Alessandro Nivolo because he tries. He's actually trying to be somewhat interesting in this film. And yeah, okay, he kind of has that moment, but even like Grant was like, he's just young. He doesn't know like what to do. He's just trying to find himself. And Billy does kind of play hero for a good amount of this movie. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to Billy.
That chick award.
I'm gonna give it to Laura Dern because that chick figured out in 6 words how to get the Army and Marine Corps to Site B in the right.
She's been waiting. She's been waiting.
Man, she had some speed dials ready to go. She was like, they will be there in the morning.
Because she knew that Grant will go back.
Yeah, she knew that. But not only did she know that, but she knew that they needed off that island like immediately. And so, and what I have to imagine took up a decent portion of the budget to hire all these little extra actors to play Marines, and whatever, and bring in all these helicopter and whatnot. And they literally serve no purpose. They literally could have brought in one helicopter.
Right.
And it still would have served the same exact purpose that happens in this movie. And I don't know. I'm gonna give it to Laura Dern.
That full of work.
You know what? Plain simple. I'm gonna give it to the adult family friend, Ben Hildebrand.
I thought about for being the adult family friend.
I thought about giving it to Téa Leoni, but she's fine. She just plays an extension of herself, I feel like. But the adult family friend is who I'm going to give it to. Ben Hildebrand, mainly because, dude, you knew better. Like, you put yourself in an unnecessary amount of danger, for you to make this connection with a single mom. Like, bro, there's plenty of single moms out there. You don't have to take them.
You couldn't take the kid to a baseball game.
I know, right? Like, go to a baseball game. Like, you can't take the kids.
I'm sure you can get Laker tickets. Go to the game.
Hey, you can't take him to his first ever Hooters for his birthday. Like, that's all you need to do is take him to Hooters.
Go extreme. Get him a hoe.
Yeah, whatever. Well, I mean, whatever. Just give him whatever. But, bro, you went way too far. Way too far doing the parasailing thing.
To be just the adult family friend.
The adult family friend, yeah.
Not even the respect level of being the boyfriend or the stepdad.
They mention it later in the wiki because I guess William H. Macy's literally like, I'm sorry about Ben. Like, really trying to be nice to Téa Leoni a little bit, but she's all like, it's not about Ben, it's about Eric. And it's like she didn't even see him as the boyfriend. He was the adult family friend.
But that's kind of where Tia gets the extra fool because, all right, so if he's not even the boyfriend, so you trusted your son with the adult family friend in this situation.
This is the dude getting the cheeks. That's all he's getting. He's getting the cheeks, and he wanted to.
I don't think he got the cheeks.
No, I'm pretty sure he got the cheeks. I don't know, man. I don't know,
to
man.
go parasailing with somebody else's kid? Nah, man.
I don't know, man. Like
you must really, really, really like her.
This adult family friend, was probably getting the cheeks.
Okay, cut that out.
The dream sequence, like it's a 10-second bullshit thing. There's nothing to it. There's literally nothing to it. And in a movie that's an hour and 23 minutes, that was 10 seconds I didn't need.
Oh, yeah. Does it hold up?
No, it doesn't. If you decide, look, if you're looking for a short adventure with dinosaurs and this is a perfectly fine thing, to watch. But let's not make it seem like this is a great movie or whatnot. It was fine for me to watch it now 20 years later, but even I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I'm glad this was the first movie I watched coming back to America, but I'm good. I really am.
I'll tell you, your story, your quest to how you ended up in the city and how that story surrounds Jurassic Park 3. The story of you in the city is it's actually a hell of a lot more interesting than this movie.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Iconic scene.
I'm gonna give it to the pterodon scene. Like that scene in itself is a good action piece. It was an action piece that would make any decent film director, pretty happy to see. There's a lot of excitement kind of going on. There's no easy way out. There's literal horror when you see these things, and it's a good sequence overall.
All right, let's get Black Game talk. Let's get into some quick hits. You ready?
Yeah, let's just.
All right, man. Kicking off the quick hit game. A few of the action sequences are borrowed from leftover ideas from the first two Jurassic Park movies. No shit. Some of which were in the original scripts and made it as far as being storyboarded before they were scrapped due to time and budget constraints. These scenes include a pterodon and a riverboat sequences.
The effects crew used 250 gallons of oatmeal to simulate Spinosaur droppings.
Gross. That's a lot of shit. According to here we go. According to an interview with William H. Macy, he said this movie's animatronic Spinosaurus had a 1,000 horsepower motor, and that creature could turn its head at twice the force of gravity, with the tip of its nose moving at a speed of more than 100 miles per hour.
That's terrifying.
That's fuck.
That's terrifying. The Spinosaurus was actually the largest animatronic ever built. It was 25 feet high. That's fucking ridiculous. 25 feet high.
Jeez.
Its length reaching around 40 feet, and it weighed 24,000 pounds.
Good God Almighty.
That's bigger than semis. I'm pretty sure that's heavier than semis, for sure. It was operated by hydraulics. This allowed it to operate while completely submerged in water. It ended just before the hip, so any shot that shows more than this had to be computer generated. Okay, that's pretty fair.
Jeff Goldblum confirmed in an interview that he was not invited back to reprise his role as Dr. Ian Malcolm.
Let's see. In 2014, Dr. Nazir Ibrahim and Dr. Paul Sereno presented evidence that indicated that Spinosaurus was not a land animal. This was a creature adapted to life in the water, floating like a crocodile with paddle-like feet. Kind of makes sense. On land, the Spinosaurus had walked on 4 legs. Therefore, if Spinosaurus would fight with other larger predators, the battle looked very different from the one in the movie. Paul Sereno said that when Spinosaurus emerged on land, it probably didn't brawl with other predators. Big predators would likely have stayed away from fighting each other, Ibrahim says. Whichever one got in the first big bite would have probably won the fight. And this movie is a T-Rex that got the first big bite and should have won the fight. Also, with a bite force of 3.5 to 23.5 metric tons, the T-Rex should have bitten the Spinosaurus head off. But of course, this is a fictional story, so anything is possible.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is Jurassic Park 3 as told by Danger Neff. Great job, Danger Neff. I plan on laying down and shaking this head cold I got. So I'll be back right as rain next week. Neff, where can they find you?
You can find me on IG, Twitter, wherever, Facebook, I guess. At David Danger Neff. I am the co-host here for at least the next couple of weeks. I'm the co-host here at Back to the Classics with my guy Jay, of course. He's going to tell you guys all about where you can find the rest of the show and where everything's going to kind of go from here. But thank you guys so much for rocking with us on the 20-year anniversary of JP3. It's the first movie I watched when I came back, so this kind of had a little special memory for me. So my guy, Jay Alonso, where can they find you, sir?
Oh, Facebook, Jay Alonso, Snapchat, J-Alonso, Twitter, I am Jay Alonso, and of course, Instagram at official Jay Alonso. Follow the show, Back to Classics and Movie Talk group on Facebook, jumping off every day. Of course, our Instagram page at BTTC Podcast. And like Dave said, another 2 episodes to go, and we will be taking a hiatus to figure out the future of the show. And with that being said, you guys are flipping awesome. And what's next week? Oh, we got next week. Can't wait for next week. Yeah, Danger Neff, my man for life. See you good people next week. I'm about to lay down. I'm Jay Alonso. With me, of course, is
Danger Neff.
Have a good one next week.
Peace out.